And when we vote yes, we're voting for two really simple but incredibly significant things. The first one is the recognition that our Indigenous people, our First Nations people, have a 65,000-year history connection to this land. It is incredible. And that history in 1901 was erased and ignored with the slit of the pen. Our First Nations people were not recognised in our Constitution, and now we have the opportunity to recognise and respect that 65,000-year history of connection to this country. It is incredible. Let's give that a clap, I think. That recognition will be made through a voice to Parliament. What is the voice? We've had so many questions about what is this voice. Well, it's very simply an advisory body, an advisory committee. It is nothing to be afraid of. Why should we be afraid of listening? Listening is one of the most powerful things we can do for someone. Listening is the way that we show respect to one another. As a doctor, I wanted to put a medical lens or a health lens on this. As a doctor, I know that they say that listening is 90% of the diagnosis. If we don't listen, we get the diagnosis wrong. We must listen. And when we formulate a treatment plan, I don't say you must go home and do this. You sit with your patient and you collaborate. You work out what's going to work for them. You listen to them. What's their personality? What are their circumstances? You listen and you collaborate. And in that way, you get far better outcomes. For years, year after year after year, we have the Closing the Gap report. And year after year, it's Groundhog Day. The gap is not closing. And when we say that the gap is not closing, really what we're saying is that we have failed our Indigenous people. So it is time to do something different. To keep doing the same thing over and over again, as they say, is insanity. And now we have this opportunity placed in front of us, placed in front of the Australian people, to actually make a difference to the lives of our First Nations people and to the history of our country. It is an incredible opportunity. I've gone completely off script, but I did want to quickly, as you do, with that health lens, Indigenous people, when you look at the Closing the Gap, the mortality rates, both adult and children mortality rates, are not closing. Type 2 diabetes for Indigenous people is amongst the highest rates in the world and is happening younger and younger. When we used to think that type 2 diabetes happened in the 40s and 50s, it's now happening to children. And then also rheumatic heart disease. We would think that that's a third world disease, something that's been relegated to the long history, to the long past, but it's not. Indigenous people have the highest rate of rheumatic heart disease in the world. So it's these things. These are the reasons why we need solid reasons why to change. And when we vote on the referendum, we have the opportunity to make a change. I'm going to finish up. Our Indigenous people are amongst the most disadvantaged people in this country. This is why we will recognise them. They have a 65,000-year connection to this country, which has been ignored and not respected, and we have the opportunity to change that. This is an opportunity, this is an invitation, a gracious invitation to all Australians to make a difference. And come election day, come referendum day, I really hope and I believe that Australians will respond in that same generosity of spirit, and we will vote yes. Thank you.